Hey guys, welcome back in to another edition of Slaughterhouse Sports. So today we're going to be talking about Trev Alberts. Trev Alberts leaves the University of Nebraska pretty much in the middle of the night and goes to Texas A&M, athletic director for Nebraska. And, I mean, this is a stunning move. This is totally stunning. I mean, Trev Alberts, born in Iowa, but played at Nebraska during the mid-'90s, during like 94 to 98, I want to say, or at least he was a part of the 95 team. Grant Wistrom was a defensive end, and then Trev Alberts was there in the middle. And, of course, Nebraska fans will know that defensive line and that unit. And Trev Alberts really was a successful athletic director because he made some really good decisions, like the practice facility at Nebraska was able to be completed. He was able to hire Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule, again, he went 5-7 his first year. However, Tony White, Trev Alberts was responsible for bringing in Tony White, and also Matt Rhule also recruited Dylan Raiola, and Dylan Raiola is the most talented recruit Nebraska's ever had. Ty Robinson was retained, so the football program was trending up, I'm going to say. I mean, Tony White, you could check their over-under win total in Vegas, but also this defense was really, really good. And Matt Rhule hired a really good staff. Now, Matt Rhule in the NFL didn't work out. And Matt Rhule hasn't been in, as difficult of a conference as the Big Ten conference. He's never been in a conference that is this challenging before. But I think that Matt Rhule for Nebraska is still a really good hire. And then Trev Alberts also managed, he retained Fred Hoiberg. And Fred Hoiberg is the National Coach of the Year in college basketball in the year 2024, which is incredible. I mean, Fred Hoiberg at Nebraska's first 3 years, I don't even think they won a road game in the Big Ten. They maybe won 2 road games in the Big Ten. And Nebraska this year got a 9 seed or an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. Probably the highest seed Nebraska has ever got in an NCAA tournament. And they ran up against a red-hot Texas A&M team who then took a Houston team, I'm going to say a team with Jamal Shead in Houston. You saw how great that A&M team was, especially in those final 2 minutes against Houston. So, Nebraska ran into the wrong team. They didn't have their best, game strategy against A&M, which was to slow it down. But Tominaga was a legend at Nebraska, one of the most exciting players that Nebraska's had. Fred Hoiberg, what he's done in the transfer portal. I could talk about Nebraska basketball a lot. I know that you guys are mostly football fans here on Slaughterhouse. We mostly review college football. But the job, Trev Alberts, I'd say like 80% of the fan base wanted to fire Fred Hoiberg. Fred Hoiberg, other than, his pedigree of being at Iowa State and being a coach in the NBA, didn't even do that well with the Bulls in the NBA. He didn't win any playoff series there. But the fact that Trev Alberts, kept Scott Frost even the following year until they lost to Georgia State, again, showed his patience. And that's what I love about Trev Alberts is his patience. And unfortunately, now I have to talk about Trev Alberts in Nebraska in a past connotation. And it's not really a sad story because Trev Alberts left on his own terms, which, when you're an athletic director or a coach, most of the times you're getting fired. And if I were to coach sports, which I might do in my personal life, I would want to be let go because I didn't win games. I wouldn't want to be let go because of something, off the field. That's your goal, is to represent your community in the best way that you possibly can. And Trev Alberts did that at Nebraska, and Trev Alberts was really successful at Nebraska. The frustrating thing is that this happened so abruptly. And now it's been reported on that, Nebraska, Ted Carter went to Ohio State immediately when Matt Rhule was hired, and I should have paid much more attention to that. And then Nebraska, the Board of Regents there, they couldn't get any decisions done on a university president. They kept on arguing, and nothing was able to be accomplished. So Trev Alberts felt that the school, that the people and the university there, again, this is all above my area of expertise, okay? But trying to sort this out here and then connect it back to Matt Rhule and the football program. Essentially, Trev Alberts and Nebraska, they could not move on a university president, meaning they could not all get aligned to get anything done. Everything was like pulling hair with Nebraska. And then Trev Alberts essentially had arguments over fundraising for the new practice facility, essentially also a lot of arguments about the football stadium. And so I guess Matt Rhule must have been privy to this information about, Nebraska, and about how, Trev Alberts really behind the scenes was dealing with a lot of turmoil. And he did a wonderful job, Trev Alberts, of never pointing this out to the public. And it's emotional because Trev Alberts seems like he loves the state of Nebraska, and he might still love it. But the fact that he was willing to leave as the athletic director of Nebraska to go to Texas A&M, I mean, Trev Alberts, it showed that I think that he has bigger goals in mind. I think that he wants to be a commissioner of maybe college sports. He also wants to, maybe get in the government. I mean, again, I don't know what Trev Alberts wants to do. He's unbelievably talented. He's one of the best speakers that I've ever heard. As an athletic director, I'm barely watching any athletic director speak, and Trev Alberts had my attention. Also, Trev Alberts came into Nebraska, and he was a controversial hire. I mean, because at UNO, they didn't have Trev Alberts, even after, UNO, Nebraska Omaha won a wrestling national championship, Trev Alberts then made a difficult decision of ending the wrestling program. I think ending football or wrestling at UNO. So he came into Nebraska, and him and Matt Rhule, he was able to create inroads, I believe, with Omaha. And you see the recruiting in Omaha, and you see the acceptance to Nebraska in Omaha was so great. And really, Fred Hoiberg had the program rocking. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, before Trev Alberts abruptly left Nebraska, he was storming the court with Matt Rhule. They were celebrating beating Purdue. They were celebrating beating Wisconsin. I mean, these were two of the best programs in the Big Ten that Nebraska couldn't dream of beating in basketball. And, I mean, Nebraska's volleyball program is fantastic. Their baseball program. They have so many, everything was trending up with Nebraska, at least on the field. And really, Fred Hoiberg, Matt Rhule, it seemed like this was going to be so sustainable for the long haul. It seemed unbelievable. And I, as somebody who does support Nebraska and wants to see them return the prominence, don't have any direct allegiance to Nebraska, don't have any family or any ties to the university. However, Nebraska is a classic brand, and just seeing their fans, not only in Pinnacle Bank Arena, but seeing them in Memphis, it's different. Their fan base is different. The way that they pack Northwestern, the way that they'd still cheer on teams that haven't won a bowl game in 6 years, I mean, it speaks to the fan base. Through thick and thin, this fan base stuck with their program. And for Trev Alberts, I thought that he initially got through the rough patch of firing Scott Frost, which was really hard to do because Scott Frost was supposed to be the savior. Then it ended up becoming more obvious. And then the way he was able to, handle the Mickey Joseph interim coaching job and still support Mickey Joseph in a world-class manner. And everything he did was all class, okay, even up to the point he left. And then leaving is just, that is really sad for the University of Nebraska. And it's hard to still not like Trev Alberts. It's hard to imagine Nebraska without Trev Alberts. He was everything that the other athletic directors weren't. I guess, what was it, Perlman and Bill Moose? You guys know the other athletic directors. Bill Moose is a nice guy. He just wasn't there day to day. And Trev Alberts was. And again, I was really impressed how he supported Scott Frost. And he did everything that I actually wanted. I wanted him to keep Frost after 3-9 because of all the close calls. And I wanted to see, with a new offensive coordinator, if they could do it. Didn't work out. And then keeping Fred Hoiberg. So those are, and then fundraising and the way he carries himself in all public appearances was tremendous. And Nebraska fans echo my sentiments. I see what Nebraska fans post on every single board. And so now he goes to Texas A&M. A&M is in the SEC, but you're talking about SEC and a Big Ten job. But A&M, of course, has unbelievable fundraising, tons of financial backing, all the facilities to win at the highest level. Their athletic director, Ross Bjork, he is a guy that's bounced around everywhere. I think he was at Ole Miss, A&M, and now Ohio State. So Ross Bjork has bounced around several places. A&M, too. I mean, Scott Woodward left A&M, too, to go to LSU. So they have two athletic directors that have left. So it's not like A&M has had the most stable athletic department. I mean, Buzz Williams is a really good basketball coach, so I mostly know about college basketball and college football. And then they had a very, very turbulent and very impulsive and kind of embarrassing coaching search because they pretty much told their athletic director, Ross Bjork, which is why he's at Ohio State, they said that your hire of Mark Stoops of Kentucky was not up to their standard and inappropriate. And then Ross Bjork, I mean, just his approval rating went so down, and good for Ross Bjork getting out of there. So the A&M fans, again, they are not the easiest fans to please, okay? Ross Bjork wanted to hire a coach in Mark Stoops that was overachieving at Kentucky. And did a decent job at Kentucky, and now they go out there and they're going to hire Trev Alberts. So, I mean, first of all, if he wanted to do an unpopular move like keeping Scott Frost, how long, or not firing Fred Hoiberg, A&M fans are just more impulsive, I believe, than Nebraska. But now the financial backing might be there. The Board of Regents and the, upper levels of government might be just more cohesive, which is something, again, I have no idea about. But at Nebraska, which is what pushed Trev out, and Trev seems calculated. So with Trev now at A&M, first of all, if he wins at A&M, he's going to be a legend there in that community. And then he could work very closely alongside Greg Sankey, which is maybe what he wants to do. So I believe that he has higher goals in mind than just being the athletic director of Nebraska. Now Nebraska hired somebody from Iowa who worked at Washington and Northern Iowa to be the athletic director. And I'm excited about this hire because, he's somebody that when you hear him speak, he might not absolutely blow you away with necessarily voice inflection or charisma. But Trev Alberts kind of did that. And Nebraska just needs somebody that's going to want to be at Nebraska, that seems pretty level-headed, and that doesn't move too impulsively. Because at Nebraska, you want to support your coaches, you want to support your athletic programs, and I don't want an athletic director to react hastily or impulsively to anything. So I'm going to look up again the name of the athletic director. He came from the University of Washington. And the reason why I really love this hire is, again, he hired Kalen DeBoer, and he's a Midwest guy. And even though he's from Iowa, I think that he's somebody that just wants to stay at Nebraska for a while. Nebraska needs stability. Am I worried about Matt Rhule possibly going to Penn State? The answer would be yes. That's the one job I think he would leave Nebraska for. But Nebraska, luckily, is in the Big Ten, has pretty good backing, and also has a lot of potential on the defensive side of the ball and with quarterback. And as a college coach, especially in the modern era of football, you want to have a quarterback that, I think in every era of football, you want to have a quarterback that can spin it. Dylan Raiola, one of the most talented quarterbacks ever. So, you got Hutmeyer, you got Ty Robinson. It's an awesome football situation. The first 6 games are pretty simple. So, I believe that Raiola is favored to start over Heinrich Harburg, over Daniel Kalen. And it's going to be really exciting for Nebraska football. With Trev Alberts and A&M football, he's going to then oversee and kind of try to build a program with another solid dude. Like Mike Elko seems like a solid guy. So it just is disappointing. A little bit worried about Matt Rhule. It shows you that, nobody is really in for the long haul, even if you as fans want it to happen. And you always got to look out for what's going on. Athletes are moving, but coaches are also moving at such a rapid rate. And same with athletic directors, that you just really need to hang on. And you can like certain people, but for them to gain your trust, again, you have to enjoy the time in which they are with your program and planning for the future. This stuff is so turbulent and so fast moving that players, coaches, and administrative staff that you may like at your university, it shows you that in the modern era of college football, especially right now in college sports, it shows you that everything just can move so rapidly and things can change and people can leave things that you think are perfect. So as fans, just prepare for a lot of change and prepare for people to leave just so often. So a lot of questions, and we're going to see how the new athletic director at Nebraska is going to do. Again, had a couple of months to mull this over. If I reacted the day of, it would have been just even more emotionally delivered for the video purpose. Okay. Nebraska football athletic director. Okay. New athletic director is Troy Dannon, who replaces Trev Alberts. Thank you guys for watching.